I think that's good. The first thing I want to say is welcome to Newport News. Welcome, welcome. The second thing I want to
Thank you
say
for having
is,
me.
how do you pronounce your full name? John, I know, right?
Yes. So my name is John Brennan, and
I love
hi, Plague. This is our cat, Plague. Here, Plague.
Right.
So my name is John Brennan. When my youngest child, at the beginning of the pandemic, they began to explore their personality and their tried to discover themselves, and as they did so, they decided to change their name. So to in solidarity with them, I decided to change my name as well, and I added the phrase "sorcière côté," which is French for witches of the coast.
Love it.
So it's a philosophy that I follow. Is the idea of being an edge witch, because I live on the edge, and there's a lot of power I feel in being on the edge of things. Here in Newport, we're on the edge of the sea. We're at a border, and during storms, we all know the power of the being on the edge. And for a long time, I've apparently been living on the edge between life and death, which I didn't know. And there's also a lot of power in that.
So you're saying you study witchcraft?
I don't.
You don't
study
study?
it. I don't study it. I just it's more of a philosophy, sort of.
Oh, I see.
My youngest child is a Wiccan, and they study witchcraft. I have a long time felt, sort of just a kind of comfort level with the Wiccan way of life, which is a sort of interconnectedness between all of us and nature. And I wouldn't exactly say that what I do is witchcraft, but sometimes it feels like it.
Right. Well, I've spoken to a lot of people, a lot of Wiccan people, and a lot of them dressed in all black. They say it's to be different. To be different than, like, the way it was explained to me, it was like we all repeat ourselves. Our fashion, everything is just repeated. So it's a similar. The way it was explained to me is to wear all black is to X yourself out of that wave, is what they was trying to explain to me. So can you explain that?
Well, I thought because I work for Peace, and I have since 1987 when I went away to college. I was protesting on campus and working towards peace and equity back starting in 1987.
Wow.
And so one of my heroes has always been Johnny Cash, the Man in Black. And he wears black because he said there's a song he has where he says, I would love to wear bright colors, but as long as there are people needlessly dying, I'm going to wear black.
Oh.
And someday I hope to wear rainbow colors.
Oh, so it's a symbol, so to speak.
For him. And so I said to myself, black is done. I'm going to wear bright colors. And I do, because I do ghost tours. This is my 20th year as a ghost tour guide.
Right. I've seen you in Newport.
And so at night I wear full black with the cape, and I look like a vampire floating through the night. And so during the day, I started, thanks to I basically learned from my kids as they grew and started expressing themselves. I learned, hey, why am I not expressing myself? Women put on makeup. Why can't I put on makeup? I don't know. After my brain surgery in 2015, I learned, I don't know how many days I have in the sunlight. I'm going to sparkle for every last one of them. So I put on makeup and glitter, and I wear bright clothes.
Original.
And then at night I wear black clothes, and then as an actor I get to wear whatever the director tells me to. So I get to play different characters and be different people. And one of the things that I learned as an actor is it doesn't matter what you do. in life. You want, if you're a plumber or an electrician or a doctor, you only got this one life. Walk into every room like you're a rock star walking on stage. When I go, hi Plague. When is she still in the way? I can't quite reach it. Come here. Oh, she doesn't want to be touched. When I go pick up my prescriptions at CVS, I walk in like I'm Mick Jagger walking on stage, with dressing as I do, and just being confident in myself as I walk around, it's amazing the interactions, the wonderful interactions I get with people of all kinds. People are always dragging me, saying, "You're coming in with me to O'Brien's, and I'm buying you a couple of drinks, and you're gonna tell me about yourself." So it's exciting to, as somebody who kind of follows that Wiccan idea, that you want to be an individual because you're already in the soup.
Well, that's what I was about to say is your expression, your individual ability to just be yourself without being blocked by, okay, I'm going to be judged by this. I'm going to be looked at it this way. You're like, no, this is who I am. Like it or not, this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And you have no limit far as other people voice an opinion on how you look and how you think. You're just being one with yourself. I love that. Exactly. I love that.
And it was my youngest kid who taught me that. As the pandemic started, it was a Friday, March 13th. Right. That the schools shut. It was the last day of school before they shut down in 2020. And suddenly, my youngest child was at that point in middle school, and they were suddenly learning from home, free from peer pressure. And that gave them, and I know a lot of people really struggled during the pandemic, but it opened up worlds to them.
Oh, yes, it
because
did.
It allowed them to explore themselves free from judgment. Right. And they started doing wild makeup and clothing. And one day I said to myself, I'm 50 years old, 50 something. Why can't I? If my kid has the courage to do it, I should too. And so I really was blessed to learn a lot from my youngest kid, Kat, and my middle child, awesome. Mackenzie, is also, she got MS during the pandemic. And so we threw an MS party for her.
Oh,
because instead of carrying the weight of what could have been, we decided to explore the wonders of what will be. And so we threw a party just like you would for somebody retiring. And
so you've been in Newport all your life? I
have not. I got lost in Newport 1996.
Wow.
I was then with my second wife, and we were on our way with my son, who at the time was 5. We were on our way to see a whale that had beached in Little Compton. We lived up in Woonsocket.
So you wanted to come down to
went to Little Compton, right. Got lost, so lost, and my wife was so mad at me that she wasn't talking to me, I was so.
Did you get to see the whale?
Nope, we never found it.
Oh,
never. I still haven't ever been to Little Compton, so we ended up on this island.
Okay,
she's completely lost, and she's getting madder and madder, and she's giving me the silent treatment, and I think, hey, we're just having a nice day in the car. I had no idea I was getting the silent treatment. She saw the on-ramp for the Newport Bridge that would have at least gotten us home.
Yeah.
And she was so mad she wouldn't tell me. So instead, I went around the rotary down the dead end where the Newport Playhouse was.
Right.
Said, hey, a theater. Went in, they were having auditions, and they cast me in a show. And that's when I became an actor.
This is home.
About 2-3 years later, I met my current wife, and that's about the time that my second wife said, I don't want to be married to an actor. Your life is too exciting.
That's awesome.
I want somebody who's going to do normal things, and you're not normal. So we broke up, and then right around that time I met the woman who I ended up married to since 2007.
So you mean to say the one that brought you here, you're not with her anymore?
Nope.
Oh.
No. I remember the first time I got cast in a show, she was like, "Oh wow, that's cool." And the second time she said, "Oh, that's nice." And the third time she said, "Oh."
I think it was a direction change.
Yeah, it was. We grew apart.
It's sad to say, but it was for your own good.
It was for both of our goods.
Yes.
We weren't really compatible to begin with.
Right. And that theater brought the nature out, and it exposed what you are, and what you loved, and what you was tied to. And then once she seen that, she just was.
Well, she had grown up in a family that she didn't really think of acting as having a job, and she is a very traditional family, right. And she has a traditional view of the world, and so this is my world. She would not tolerate any of this. All of this stuff would be out on the curb if she was still my wife. So,
oh my gosh. So you're able to be yourself now.
Yeah, exactly. And I was blessed because I know marriage is something that you have to make work.
Yeah, sometimes.
But to a point,
you sacrifice parts of yourself to make the marriage work. But you can't sacrifice more than half of yourself.
Exactly. I was blessed to find somebody that. One person said to us once, "Are you two from the same pod?" And I said, "No, but we are from the same mothership."
So you came from the same atmosphere.
Yeah. And it's been, I'm just really, really lucky to have met Michelle, and
that's awesome.
Especially when I had my brain injury, actually started back in 1997.
Nice.
I had sinus surgery.
Okay.
And the doctor dug too deep. Never mentioned it.
Was it Newport?
This was in Woonsocket.
Okay.
The doctor's name was Dr. Zaki. And now I know that all of his fellow doctors and all of the lawyers in Rhode Island knew him well as Dr. Hackey. And
I'm sorry to laugh, but Dr. Hackey, that sounds fitting.
He put a quarter-sized hole in base of my skull up above my sinuses and never mentioned it. And then in 2013,
why was that? To operate in that
he was
area?
He was working on the sinuses, and he just got too aggressive, and he punctured the skull above your. It's called the basal skull, above your sinus cavity. Right, so it's what the brain rests on. Oh. And he just slipped and pushed too hard, and he put a quarter-sized hole in. And we didn't know it. Over the years, my health was kind of deteriorating. And then in 2013, I was a pharmacist technician over at CVS up on Bellevue. And I went to dropped my youngest kid off at daycare at 10 a.m., started my shift. At noon, I switched over to the registers. I felt great that morning. And then the first customer came up and I started to get a headache. By the second customer, it was an incredible migraine. And by the third, I never even finished the third customer. I collapsed.
Wow.
It turned out I had meningitis. And
did you sue behind that?
Here's the thing. Dr. Zaki maxed out his malpractice insurance every year he practiced. And then he was murdered by a hitman.
What?
And that's an unsolved murder, and even the lead police investigator in a completely separate incident was murdered. So it's a cold case. The estate has already been doled out. There's no money left, and there's no no malpractice insurance left. I was told that I could pursue it, but then it would start costing money, and it would be unlikely that I would get much.
I was about to say, yeah, pursuing something like that would definitely cost.
Especially by the time I found out about it was not until 2015 when I got meningitis the second time. Yeah. And the Newport Hospital started saying, we got to figure out why you keep getting meningitis and pneumonia. And that's when they found the hole, and about an egg-sized piece of brain had fallen through into my sinuses. So in 2015, they did surgery, wedged that back up. My neurosurgeon was a brilliant neurosurgeon, but she talked with her hands a lot. And
That
She
was
said,
probably
and
part
then
of
we're
her
gonna
brilliancy.
then we shoved it back in, and I was like, yeah.
Wow.
But and then they sealed up the hole, and that will
Thank
last a
God.
lifetime.
Thank God.
But between getting meningitis twice, and because over the years my brain fluid was draining out, so the brain had no
Through your
protection.
nostrils.
It was going down the back of my throat, so I was always getting pneumonia and stuff.
Some type of fluid was building up somewhere in your stomach. Where
It was going into my lungs.
Oh,
And so
wow.
my lungs got a lot of damage. And then one day I went to one of the free concerts at the old Newport Grand. And I had long hair, so I was headbanging, rocking. I can't do it anymore.
No, man.
But that shifted the brain and let the fluid come out. Fluid started pouring out my nose. It brain fluid is very salty because it was pouring out so fast. It kept going in my mouth until they
Must have
figured
been
it
a
out.
scary time too.
It was
A lot of things happening like
but
that.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
it was
scary
a
time.
hectic time.
Yeah.
You know, the first meningitis was worse because that was a bacterial meningitis that was supposed to be almost non-survivable.
Wow.
And they told my family, you know, we'll know in 4 days, but you're probably going to either get a mortician or a group home for him. He probably will never wake up the same again.
Oh wow.
Because the meningitis had progressed so far, it was doing so much damage. But I also, because there was no protection of my brain with the brain fluid leaking out, I was getting 4 concussions every single year.
From infections.
Because the brain fluid was leaking out, and that's like a cushion on the brain. So
Exactly.
I would hit my head a little bit, and it would knock me out cold.
Wow.
So I got like 50 or 60 concussions thanks to that.
Oh man.
Which is, you know, and then the meningitis twice, and then the losing an egg-sized chunk of brain on top of it. I'm blessed. Every day I wake up and I say that, you know, it's another beautiful day in paradise, because you know what? It might be raining, it might be snowing, it might be a hurricane, but it ain't dirt.